Okay, Stacy, what is the idea you are selling us
Good
today?
morning, Krista. Okay, my idea that I am trying to sell is that your breath is your most underused tool. I could say most underused business tool, but we'll just start with tool.
Okay, tell me more. I would like to buy it, but I feel like I need a little bit more
Sure.
information.
So it does require a little bit more. We'll go down the bit of the rabbit hole
Mhm.
of breath work. I feel like it is the most underused tool because foundationally speaking, we need to have control over our breath for so many different reasons. But metaphorically, what it symbolizes really is I'm big on the breath meaning something beyond just the physiological breath, right? So what I mean by that is when we inhale, we're taking in things. When we exhale, we're releasing things. So we don't realize how much control we have over our state. So if we're trying to, as you said, sell something,
Mhm.
if we are out of control with simply the breath, there's probably a good shot that the nervous system is dysregulated and we're not showing up in the most grounded, best version of ourselves anyway. So what I'm selling is before we go any further with a conversation, we need to have control over that in and our out.
Oh,
What do you think?
I'm paying very close attention to my
Yes.
breath as you're
Can I
talking.
blow your mind just a little bit more?
Please.
Most people think that the breath has two parts. There's an in-breath, an inhale, and then there's a exhale. That's actually not true. A single breath actually has four parts.
Hmm.
There's a breath in, there's a pause at the top, there's an exhale, an out breath, and then there's a second pause. And for me, yes, physiologically, all four parts, they matter. It's like a signal, a direct line, communication line to your nervous system, but it also means something to me. We need to be able to control what we're taking in, pausing to be able to integrate, exhaling what we don't need any longer, and then the opportunity to take a beat before we reset and go again. So it's a big conversation of not just I'm selling you then the fact that it's an underused tool. It's an underused tool that most people don't realize we do it 20 to 25,000 times a day unintentionally. But if we show up intentionally, we are aware of the in, the pause, the out, and the pause.
So you're saying that breathing, it doesn't need to be this autonomic thing. It needs to be
Mm,
a very intentional practice.
I feel like we might know each other from a different word. Yes, it's both, Krista. It's both. It is absolutely automatic, something that we don't have to think about. Most of us breathe just fine, right?
Mhm.
However, there's this other side of conscious or intentional breathing. That is the place where I feel like we are so far behind in understanding that we have this magnificent God-given tool that we can use very quickly to change how we show up in a space.
Follow-up question. Do you think this is a Western
Mm.
civilization issue?
Do I think that it's a Western issue? I think it is a global
Oh, okay.
issue
Okay.
because I don't care where you are. We are all moving very fast with a lot of content, with a lot of information. I think as a global culture, we are stuck in the inhale. That's
Okay.
my position,
Okay.
that we are constantly taking in and we cheat or we skip or we shorten the best part of a single breath and then our overall breathing. When we, research based, when we stretch out and exhale, the nervous system automatically switches over to parasympathetic. So if we double down on how we let things out, we can come into balance very quickly. And I wish that more people understood how much control that they have, even down to that basic single breath.
So interesting. Okay.
Mm,
You are obviously an expert
yeah.
on this,
Mm,
but I would imagine you have not always been an
mm.
expert on this because
Well, we're both experts. We're both breathers.
True,
Yeah.
true, but we are natural
Mhm.
automatic breathers.
That's right.
We are not intentional breathers as you are describing. So
Mhm.
how did you become so aware of your intentional breath? When did this become something that you began practicing in your own
So
life?
I'm sure I'm going to love all the questions that you throw at me, but that is probably one of my favorites, that when people ask me how I got so zeroed in and kind of laser focused on the breath. And like many things in my life and in my career, my personal, my professional, I feel like all roads kind of lead to this exact moment where I get to talk about the fact that, and I don't know that I would necessarily um, position myself as a complete expert. I just got in the way of this conversation after experiencing a variety of different scenarios where it always came back to the breath. One in particular is I've always been an athlete, and had a good run at running marathons. And breathwork is everything. But I don't know that I was necessarily intentionally breathing through 26.2 miles. It wasn't until in the latter part of the many marathons that I did, like, if I get control over this, if I can intentionally manipulate the breath, some significant shifts were starting to happen. I was going a little faster. I wasn't running out of gas as much. When I spent too much time in the inhale, think about that. When you're out of breath, I noticed that I would exhaust myself quicker. So being able to stay in front of the breath, stay alongside of the breath, and being able to use the breath in a way that supported long distance running, I would say would be about the first. However, I tell this story, and we'll get into this later on. I can trace thinking about breath work all the way back until when I was in kindergarten, believe it or not.
Mm.
I share this in my talk that I just gave. I remember, and maybe you do too, I don't know if it's still there, but inside of the kindergarten day, rest time was built in.
Yes.
And the way I share is I remember Mrs. Fogle, she would pull out the tiny cot, the fuzzy little blanket, and she'd turn off the lights and she would say, all right, it's time to rest. I just want you to lay there and breathe. And I remember thinking to myself, she wants me to lay here and breathe, but I'm not tired. And that was really hard for me as a kindergartner. I was full of energy and enthusiasm, and just to settle down enough. I remember I can still hear her voice. Stacy, it's time to rest. I just if you can't stop the wiggling, just lie there and breathe. And I think that's really interesting because that was not a formal skill that you typically see in kindergarten. We learn our ABCs, we learn our numbers, but nobody ever shared that you could use your breath to quickly calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure that that's what she was selling. However, years later, I've looked back and I thought that was an intentional, metaphoric break from the chaos of in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those two things are really pinpoints. However, laser focus on the breath came around when my only sibling got sick in 2018. I have a younger brother, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. At the time, and still now, I still teach classes, fitness classes, and I'm very heavily involved in my yoga community. My mom lovingly refers to my brother and I was the yogi and he was the nogi, right? And when my brother was diagnosed, I sincerely was trying to bring onto the scene with him using breath work to be able to manage the anxiety wrapped around such a difficult time. And that's where Nogi and Yogi kind of came in because he just couldn't get the hang of it. And I thought that at the time, I thought that was so fascinating. He was a pilot. I was more of your, as he would say, earthy, crunchy, hippie chick. We were both very close, but all the breath work that I've done over the years, he could not kind of grasp how to even use like equal ratio breathing. Breathe in for the same amount of time as you breathe out. He thought it was just, like you said, woo-woo. And so I became intensely interested in trying to help him understand that, no, this is a tool beyond what you think that we're just going, oh, that's not what I'm using it for. What I'm using it for is you need to bring yourself down. We need a little more grounding. He's also in a lot of pain. And we know that breath work done correctly can alleviate some of that. So between the kindergarten story, the running, and then his illness, I think that they were all steps leading me to be so fascinated with both the physiological, the breath work itself, but then also really drilling down and understanding the breath stands for everything. I mean, if you think about it, we're either taking in or we're letting out, we're pausing in between those two spaces. So I can use it to describe what I want a team to do. I can describe it to what I want an individual to do, both in my physical work and then also in leadership.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
In your marathon journey, you said as you were running, you were feeling the difference. How did you then start connecting that?
Yeah.
So, like you've run 11 marathons.
Yes, and I've had quite a few missteps along the way.
I would imagine.
And they often boiled back down to the breath. So if you think about it, what happens when you take too much air in? If you think about hyperventilation, right? Constantly pulling air in, right? What ends up happening is you end up getting lightheaded, right? So you end up really pulling in too much oxygen, whereas we need that balance of blowing off that carbon dioxide, right? And so when you get going with running, if you're ahead of the pace, there's a good shot you're ahead of the breath. And so it occurred to me after misstep 1, misstep 2, and I'll again, that's a whole different conversation, that I really needed to get control physically. I mean, I trained like a champ. I followed all the right steps. I'm like, why is it that some runs feel so much better than others? And I have found over the course, and I just ran my last one last year, I have found that if I foundationally come back to a really solid pace that allows me to balance breath in and out and the 2 pauses involved, I have a much different experience. Whereas when you take in so much air, that is exhausting yourself beyond, and you end up hitting the wall, the proverbial wall.
So it was sort of that realization in that process. How did you come to know it was the breath, though? Was there anything else happening outside in your life, or was it just this light bulb moment?
Well, they were spread out. The marathons were spread out. And remember, I was still teaching yoga. Like I
So
said,
yoga was happening
well, and I
alongside
was
that.
starting to realize that, you know, as you can probably imagine, with marathons, if the flatter the course, there probably is a good shot that it's going to be an easier trek, right? Whereas our hilly courses tended to be a little bit more challenging. And it occurred to me that if I changed pace to match cadence of breath, all of a sudden I wasn't, you know, hitting the wall going up. And I certainly wasn't trying to outrun the downhill. It's all about, truly, you can take the metaphor of the marathon too. It's all about balancing the breath. Or if you are really into breath work, it's understanding that in breath represents energy and energizing, right? And then the out breath represents relaxation and release. So let's pretend I showed up here before our podcast and I had been up all night long. I might consider doing a breath technique that was heavily tipped on the in-breath. Why? We know that the in-breath brings in energy. So as opposed to really stretching out my exhales, I might do something like a bellows breath where I'm taking in a little bit more air to send the message to my nervous system, hey, it's time to turn it on. Fascinating. It's a fascinating exploration to understand that most people, in my opinion, need to understand balanced breathing, having your inhales and your exhales match. However, I do teach what I call coffee, water, and wine breathing. Coffee is going to be a little more energizing, heavily tipped on the inhale. Water breathing, when's water good for you at all times? So it's balance. And then wine breathing, where we are stretching out the exhale to calm ourselves down. And there are breathing, I just name them that because it's easier for people to remember. But you can use the breath to manipulate your state, which goes back to your original question, what am I selling? Get in touch with that intentional breath, you'd be really surprised about all the problems you can solve just by understanding that you have this tool that you can use to manipulate your nervous system.
Okay, so I am feeling really tired. I have a
Yeah.
puppy,
Yes.
so I need some coffee breathing. Walk
Yeah.
me through
Yep.
some coffee
So
breathing.
it's one of the harder breathing exercises. So you want to think about your belly button going in and out. So I'm going to show you with my hands. And so for your listeners who are listening, all I'm doing is making the symbol with my hands, like come here. Okay.
Mhm.
So I want you to practice this with me. You're going to think of your breath like a sneeze. So it's going to sound and look like this until you run out of air, and then exhale. Let it all the way out. And we're going to try it again. You're going to try to do 20 snaps. Ready? Till you run out of air, and then let it go. We're going to do it one more time. You ready? All the way till you run out of air, and then release it. Take a natural breath in and an easy breath out. And what you should be feeling, Krista, is a little buzzy, a little bit of energy, a little bit of energize. And again, the more we do, the more energy we're going to get. Coffee breathing is one of those ones that you want to be careful with, right? We don't want to, because it can make you aggravated if you do it too much.
Mhm.
And so if you really weren't tired and we just spent the time doing this breathing exercise, breath of fire, bellows breath, energizing breath work, it can make you feel a little wound up too tight. Like I said, the balanced breathing, we'll do that one next. We'll do like a 4x4. That's the one I love if you're tired or if you are needing energy. Why? Because it brings you into balance wherever you are.
This
So
is the water
the
breathing.
water breathing.
Okay.
So you're going to take a deep breath in for 4. You're going to inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 4, 3, 2, 1. Do it one more time. Inhale 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 4, 3, 2, 1. Awesome. Awesome. So just
I
one
like that one.
little autocorrect there. So again, if you're listening, the autocorrect really comes about when you take a breath in. Because we are a culture of so much in, we tend to breathe up here. And you can see it in people very quickly. If I say take a breath in, their shoulders come up and their chin goes up, right? So when we initiate breath, we start from the bottom up. And we take a breath in and the belly comes out, the ribs come out, and the chest comes out. And then when we exhale, everything deflates, right? And so it's a practice. Not everybody's going to be great at it. It's like it is a muscle. Your diaphragm is a muscle. And it's practice that kind of gets you to understand that you've got this really cool tool that you can pull out wherever you need.
Interesting. Is that similar to box breathing?
So box breathing is an excellent example of a water category of breathing. So when we inhale, we take a breath in for 4, and then we hold our breath for 4. That retention. And then we exhale. And then we got to hold it at the bottom too. So remember our 2 pauses? This is where we get into the pauses. It's making a big box. You inhale for 4, hold your breath for 4, exhale for 4, and then you hold it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And wine breathing.
And wine breathing. So I'm hesitant because if you're tired, I don't want to give you wine breathing. It's going to
Can you
put you to
just
bed.
explain it?
So I don't know what the demographic is in terms of age discrepancy on the podcast, but my ladies who are in that perimenopause,
Yes,
menopause,
we got a lot of
right?
those.
All right. So this is you're welcome. You're welcome. So wine breathing, we stretch out our exhale. So I'm going to give you one because we're going to talk about the product in a minute. This is the one that the product does too. So we're going to take a deep breath in. You take that inhale for 4. Now we got to hold our breath for 7. Now we got to slowly let that air out for 8. Exhale. What you'll notice, if there's a new breath technique for somebody, they will run out of air by that 8 count. Let's do it again. Take a breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that'll really calm the nervous system. So I share that with you for perimenopause and menopause women. That sleep thing is a thing, whether or not falling asleep or staying asleep. A couple of rounds of 4-7-8 breathing, I promise. Well, night, lights out, night.
So breathe in 4, hold 7, breathe out 8.
Yep.
Okay.
The secret sauce there is if you want a wine category of breath, double down on your exhale. That's the trick.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
I love those names because they're so memorable.
So memorable. Can I sell
Yes.
that? Can I sell wine, water?
Yes. Yes.
and coffee.
That is what everyone will remember from this episode.
Listen, I got that that cool naming from a breathing course that I took years ago. This gentleman, Lucas Rockwood, and I thought it was so clever too because I thought most people think that breath work is woo-woo and they don't quite understand why we do what we do, not only in yoga, but in just outside life. Naming that coffee, water, and wine tells you exactly what you need and the moment that you need it. And if you only leave with 3 breathing exercises that fall into it, you got something for everything.
Absolutely.
You don't want to do them all together. That's like yoga speedball, right?
Yes.
You don't know which way to be.
Ding. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about your sweet brother. Yes. Whose name is?
Brad.
Yes.
And I love talking about him. I know most people get a little weirded out, but because he did pass away and he is my only sibling. But I have this is a little woo-woo.
I know, you told me some.
I did. It is woo-woo, but when I say it loud and I say it proud because I mean it with my whole heart. I have a cosmic relationship with him. Even now that he's not physically here. I had a tremendous relationship with him while he was here. And now I feel like the transition has been interesting because we were so close. We did have the conversation about what happens when he's not here. So very joking around, teasing relationship, but it never fails. I ask for a sign and I get them. And I get them in the most uncanny ways that literally my whole family's like, it's something. We don't know what it is, but I call it what I call it and they call it what they call it, but he still finds a way back. And I do lean in there because it's very comforting to me and it makes me feel like the back half of my life is extremely purposeful. And when I can say his name in a way that is supportive and healing for somebody else, why not?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Brad was a pilot.
He was a pilot for Southwest.
And he was a Nogi.
So
as you were working on this breath work with him, did he come around to it?
Oh, he did. And it's funny because I'm also, sounds like, and me too, and I also do this, and I've had a long journey.
I know.
I'm getting old.
I know.
But I'm also Reiki certified and Thai massage certified. So if he wasn't buying in on the breath work, let me tell you where he was buying in. I think I massaged my brother through his illness I think it was like, I don't know, almost 3 years. When I look back on that time, that not only just to be able to give somebody relief from that direction, but also hands-on and then energy movement and then breath work. My brother and I had a solid 2.5 years on that journey together. We traveled, we did all the things to try to get bigger healing. However, I think that was the way it was supposed to happen. He has 3 children. He happened to have been going through a divorce at the time that he was diagnosed. And my husband and I have had the joy and the pleasure of continuing where he had to leave off in helping support his kids. So during the time, you asked the question, did it work for him? It did, because breath work and massage and energy work allowed him to have a voice that I now don't wonder. And the recordings that I have about all this is what I want my daughter to know. These are what I want my daughters to know when they get married. This is what I want them to know when they graduate from college. This is what I want for my son. I have it. And so it worked to the degree that he was able to relax into the moment, not be in excruciating pain the entire time he was sick. And it allowed us to have dialogue and communication in the most authentic way. And that's what I mean about going back to the original comment, you come as you are. I'm going to change it a little bit. You come in as you breathe. So how you show up in the space, I can tell straight away how somebody is feeling by just simply observing the breath. So for my brother, that state was super important. I wanted him to not spend 2.5 years constantly in fight or flight. This stinks. This is awful. We actually did the bucket list for the 2.5 years. And so I feel like that was a gift for him, but it was such a big gift for all of us, truly.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. And what a legacy that you are living out in his name with your work now.
Yeah. Well, if I'm not talking about the breath, somehow, some way, the metaphor of flying has been huge. I mean, my classic hashtag is always wheels up, because I feel like he does live through. I'm living. He wanted so badly to still be here, and so I feel like I'm living for the both of us. I take the chances. I do the thing. I go for it, and I credit him for that, because I know how much he wanted that.
Yeah.
You know.
Tell me one of the things you did on his bucket list together.
Oh gosh, this is so funny. His one daughter, her whole life, all she wanted to do was swim with the dolphins. So 2019, he was diagnosed in 2018. 2019, the whole family, we went to Mexico. And darn if he didn't set up the swimming with the dolphins. And my brother's illness was involved. I mean, like, colon cancer is no joke. That man got in that pool.
Wow.
And we swam with the dolphins.
Wow.
That was amazing.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wow. And for his daughter, can imagine how powerful that was.
His son, this was towards the back half of it, had some friends who had Ravens connection. And his son, all he wanted to do was be on the end zone. Did that one. And then we turned around. I told you he was a pilot for Southwest. He passes, and we rented out the Southwest quarter at the Ravens Stadium and released purple butterflies.
Oh, wow.
His favorite color was purple. I used to tease his son, like I call him my brudda. So we released purple butterflies. You know, it's just they're the gifts that just continue to remind me that it's not a miss. It's just the way it happened, you know. And so we just figure it out.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Which brings me to the point of, he is the reason that the product is here.
Yes, so let's talk about it. VidaBall.
Yep.
Yes.
So again, trying to teach him, I literally, no kidding, no embellishing, nothing. I was in South Carolina helping with his children. I literally
Is that where he lived? South Carolina?
My parents live there as well.
Okay.
So I literally shot up out of bed with this idea. I was at his house. I'm like, well, no wonder he can't do the breathing exercises. He needs me to show him. And what was in my head and now what is in my hands 4 years later, 5 years later, is really remarkably close. I imagined a sphere shape, and I imagined using as many of the senses as I possibly could to teach him patterns. Coffee, wine, you know, water. And to be able to use vibration and light. And then he loved aromatherapy when we did the massages. So I do not have an inventor's bone in my body. He knew about the product. At the time, the product was called the Breath Bubble. He passed away in October of 2020. And it took me, Krista, I always say everything's figure-outable. Somebody else said that, but everything's figure-outable. But when I tell you Stacy had to figure it out, it took me about 3.5 years, and I launched the product in 2024.
Wow.
Yeah. It was the heart. There will only be one invention in this girl's life, but I feel so great that I followed it through. It's patented, it's trademarked, and part of the proceeds go to a nonprofit that I work very closely with to support integrative cancer research. And it allows me to talk about him in a way that doesn't make people, you know, squirm when you talk about somebody who's died. The product to me, I didn't know what was going to happen. I still don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I will tell you, the VidaBall has been a journey since he's been gone that has been so lovely.
So I know you have it with you. Can we see it?
Of course. So the VidaBall is a handheld tool designed to sit on your desk when you need a micro moment of calm.
Good pitch.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Did you buy it?
I did buy that. Yes, I did.
So it's only got 2 buttons in the front, and then it's got a little magnetic charger in the back. So when I turn it on, for folks that are just listening, it's this beautiful blue light.
Mm-hmm.
If the lights in the studio weren't as bright, you can kind of see it fading in and out. I didn't design that on purpose because it does sit on its stand with the aromatherapy disc. And I just wanted it to be a pleasant kind of like remind you to take a breath, right? That would just, as it's sitting there idle. But let's say you, Krista, you're ready to go to bed and you want to take that wine category. There are 5 different breathing exercises. I'm going to hand this to you in a minute. This is going to be balanced breathing. There's going to be your box breath. This is the one I want to work on with you. Okay. This is 4, 7, 8. When you see a blinking light, it's breath retention. You're holding your breath. And then when you see a light diminish, you're feeling an exhale. So light comes up, it's an inhale, blinking light, it's hold your breath. And then long diminishing light, that's an exhale. So I'm going to give it to you and let you feel it.
Okay. Oh, it's vibrating.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yep. And then you're holding your breath there, and we'll start the next one.
Okay.
So there was your 7, and it gives you the count.
Okay.
And then now we're going to see that light diminish and go all the way down.
Okay.
Yep. Then when it starts again, you're going to take your inhale.
Okay.
And we go now. Breathe in. It's just to show you how shallow we breathe, and then we hold it. Notice when you run out of air. The VidaBall is designed to be your breath training coach. You're just following the pattern. And once again, that 8 is really hard for people to let that air out, and then we'll come back up. So 4, 7, 8 is a great one for that wine category. The other 2 breathing exercises, that button on the left, you'll see it. Humming bee breath, and then also lion's breath. These are going to be a little bit more energizing. So you're going to see a big blink really fast. And what that was is this. For a really long time, right? So we breathe in and then you let it out. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. So that would be a more energizing breath. And then the last one's humming bee, where we're using vibration in the vagus nerve. So it's an inhale for 4, and then we hum it out on the exhale. So as it starts to diminish, it sounds like this. Why do we hum? It stimulates that vagus nerve. So it comes with a user guide. And like I said, there's 5 different breathing patterns. It comes with a little bottle of lavender oil. And the idea is not to make you crazy with all 5 breathing exercises. I always say, start with the first one. That's the white. That's inhale 4 and exhale 4. On the user guide, it comes with a QR code, and there's tutorials that will point you right there if you need a little bit of help. So
very cool. You designed this.
I did.
Badass. That's amazing. Wow. What were the different iterations this went through?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I can imagine.
Well, so it needs a 3rd one. This is iteration 2.
Okay.
Well, let me say this. What you're looking at is finished iterations. So I have, like I said, it took me 3.5 years to kind of bring it to life. And so to find somebody that could extract what was in my brain and then put it to like a CAD drawing and whatnot. I mean, you're talking about terminology. I promise you, I knew nothing. I didn't have consult. This was, when I started this, we were before ChatGPT.
Right.
So this was, Stacy had to figure it out. And then I, just like I always say, I ask and I receive. I asked for guidance in the best way. Show me somebody, God, can I please have somebody in my life that can teach me how to engineer? I didn't even know what kind of engineer to get. Right. So long story short, I just happened to ask for what I needed each step of the way and try to figure out the steps. And when it kind of came to life, it sold out. I got 1,000 units was my first order. And I sold out in less than 6 weeks. So round 2.
How did you sell it?
So I did a Kickstarter campaign, and then, I have lots of friends and family. They were just gone. And so I did that intentionally because I wanted the feedback, and I got great feedback. So round 2 was 5,000 units. And what happened there was interesting. I took the feedback from everybody and I kind of incorporated, but I ran into some roadblocks. My product is manufactured offshore. So the VidaBall is actually ready for a 3rd iteration. And I'm in a bit of a struggle. I'm on the struggle bus with it because it is manufactured and we continue to have issues where we have issues. My goal was always to sell here. In fact, there's a manufacturer in Forest Hill.
Oh my gosh.
Which means I would have to start over because just as you can imagine like a waffle maker. That's called a tool.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know if I'm speaking a foreign language to you, but a
Yeah,
tool
no,
is
you
like,
are.
like literally open, shut, VidaBall, VidaBall, VidaBall. The tool is really what's patented. So, and it weighs a gajillion pounds. So it's over there. So in order for me to have manufacturing here, I either have to pay for it to come here or I have to start over. And so I think my goal is I'm going to start over
Okay.
because the iterations that are coming next are going to be a temperature piece.
Oh.
We know cold therapy is really great, but we also know that weighted and heat are something. And then for some reason, I'm really feeling the need. If you notice, there's no app involved. This was a little side wink to my brother. The cell phone drove my brother crazy. He had kids that were growing up. He thought that it was the lost art of communication of family and whatnot. And if I put an app to that, it means you're still having to go to the cell phone to kind of get the directions, which is not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So somehow, some way, I think I'm thinking about doing frequency music inside of it. I just haven't figured that part out. We'll see. We'll see.
Very cool. Very cool.
It sells now. So, like I said, the iterations will come.
Yes.
And hopefully by the time we're ready for it, that, I'll be able to do it in Forest Hill.
Where can someone get this?
I'm so glad you asked. I have 2 asks from you. Well, first, you can buy it on Amazon. And if somebody should purchase it on Amazon, my second ask is please give me that review.
Mm-hmm.
Honest reviews only, of course, but it pushes it to the top a little bit easier. So Amazon, and because my product's fairly new, you put in VidaBall and most people spell it wrong, and then you're going to get video ball as it populates. So Vida is spelled VID as in dog, A, ball. And you can find it there. You can also find it on our website. And my big reveal is I just did a TEDx talk. I know you know.
Yes.
And so, of course, you cannot sell anything on TEDx, but my talk is called Your Breath is the Heaviest Thing You Will Ever Hold. And I am allowed to talk about the VidaBall in my show notes. So there is a coupon code called TEDx Breathe, and it'll give you 15% off of an already discounted VidaBall.
Oh, amazing. Okay, we will link all of that in our show notes.
And I have one more thing for your audience.
Yes.
So I think it's really funny that we bring in the breath, or lots of people think it's funny because how do we bring in breath into corporate? So I have this really fun PDF that I'd like to give your listeners called the 7 Archetype Office Breathers. Ooh. Which one are you?
Ooh.
So we'll put that in the show notes too, but it's really funny because the PDF is live. So if you click on it, it'll show you. And just, it's really fun to figure out, like, where do I tend to land? Are you chest up Charlie? Or, they're named and they're really fun, but you'll see yourself in one of the 7, I promise.
Okay. I'm whatever it is where in the neck and the shoulders, if there's some...
Chest up Charlie, where you're breathing in.
Yep, that's what I am.
Well, but go look at the other 6 because they're really fun to look at. Like, oh my gosh! And then now all of a sudden, now that you've identified that there are office breathers, now all of a sudden you'll become intentional, and you don't want to be chest up Charlie.
Right. And you'll see it in everybody else too. I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, and what you'll learn from that PDF is fascinating because I study the breath so much. I'm always really fascinated for myself too. When I show up in an environment. Like when we first sat down, your studio is awesome. But by the sheer nature of a swing mic, and, I could feel my breath speeding up. Like, I'm not nervous, but what's that about? I'm gearing up. Right. And so now once you learn those 7 office breathers, you'll look around and you can see it in your kids. Your kids are another fascinating way to know what's happening behind the words.
So interesting.
Watch how they breathe.
Yes.
If you want to know how somebody is actually doing, don't ask them, how are you doing? Watch the breath.
Ooh, that's so interesting.
How about when we do the thing that we love, public speaking? Have you ever heard the rapid talker and like my mouth is so dry and, can't quite seem to manage the speed in which they're talking. You end up talking faster. That's all state. That's all how you are.
I can see that. So it's really interesting. When I do keynotes, I find I start with a really good pace, but then as I get going, I get more quick,
frantic, and then kind of adding air to it.
And then what's interesting is in podcasting, in interviews, I typically start more quick, and then as I get in the zone, I slow down. It's reversed. I noticed that in myself, and it is all back to
how about when we're having tough conversations, parenting? Notice your breath there. And if we're creatures of mirroring, so if you want to have a calm conversation with your spouse or your children, you got to slow it down. You've got to, and it's not just slow down your words, slow down your breathing, so you can intentionally show up for the conversation. When I was doing a little bit of research to chat today, one of the stories that I was going to tell was the TEDx story, and how that is probably one of my very favorite hacks. We were behind the cameras waiting for our turn, and there was a young lady. Her name was Sam, and she was so incredibly nervous. And I had watched her rehearsal. It was just a couple of minutes. She was a really rapid breather, and just, you could tell. I mean, the stakes are high. Come on. I mean, it's just unbelievable the amount of pressure that you feel just by seeing the red letters, right? So I said to her, I said, Sam, can I give you some feedback? And she's like, oh my gosh, Stacy. I'm like, hold my hands for a second. So she put her hands on top of mine, and I said, do me a favor. She's like, I am breathing. They knew that I was. She's like, I am breathing. I said, before you go out there, before it's your turn, I want you to take a deep breath in while you're standing behind the wings. Take a deep breath out. When you walk out on the stage, before you say a word, take a deep breath in. Don't let it out. Inhale, and then start talking. Think about it for a second. Because what most people tell you is, take a deep breath so you can calm down again. If you take a deep breath, breathe in, and then you let it out. So thanks for having me here today. You run out of air. That makes you start talking faster. Start your talk after the inhale, in the pause, and then you'll be good. Now the breath can come with. So she does it, and she comes back. She goes, oh my gosh, that's magic. I'm like, no, it's just intentionally breathing into your words.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's so much science we can get into on this with how your nervous system, but that's part 2 when you come back. Not to get too gloom and doom, but we do love to talk about the stakes around here. So if we don't master this, what's kind of the dirty underbelly of what life looks like when we go through life white knuckling it and not mastering the intentional breathing?
Well, knowing how to breathe is different than knowing how to use your breath. So I think the stakes, when I look at this, it becomes more of a symbolic representation of, when you go into the conversation and then it's over, and then you look back and you reflect back and you're like, I could have done that a little differently. I could have shown up a little bit better. I think the stakes are, you don't have the best shot of putting your best foot forward if you cannot even control the most foundational piece of what we are, right? So I think it kind of bundles all up into intentionality for me, and knowing why you are doing what you're doing. It is the non-reactive leadership that I'm curious about with breath work. And it doesn't have to be something so serious where I'm going to go into my office and go do the breath work. I am talking about grounding yourself and getting control over your nervous system before you make the next move, before you give your argument, before you give your sell, before you give the disciplinary action. I think that we're missing an unbelievable, by the way, free opportunity to use the tool to benefit us in every aspect of your life, truly. I mean, we are a culture of reaching for stuff, external things to help fix the issue. But what if the issue came down to you need to take a beat, ground yourself, get control over your nervous system so you can go do the thing that you want to do. And I think the stakes are high because if you watch most people, we're a team of, I know this already, I'm puffed up, I've got too much of the inhale working, and I haven't let the shoulders down to be receptive or to be persuasive.
That's really good. I think I definitely need to learn to do that more in my parenting.
Yeah. All of us. All of us. I mean, like I said, the word expert, I struggle with that a little bit because I think we're all trying to figure it out. It's the niche for me that I believe in a bigger picture that we separate. We'll use it in terminology, work-life balance. And for me, the word needs to come back to just balance. We should be doing the thing, taking it with us, taking the breath with you, taking the micro movements with you, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm going to go have this work day. I'm going to fill it. I'm going to check mark everything off our list. And oh, by the way, then I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go take the yoga class. And then that's where I'm going to breathe. What if we took the tools with us during the course of the day? Then maybe we wouldn't have to segment so much of our life if we were doing the thing while we were doing it.
Yes.
I hope that was
Yes.
not too confusing.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I've made a living as the work break queen. It's not just breath work. Disrupting sedentary behavior, disrupting breath holding, disrupting nutritionally speaking. Why do we wait and put it in this? This is where I'm going to be healthy. This is where I'm going to work. This is where I'm going to parent. And what I'm saying is take it all with you. It doesn't have to disrupt your work day. It's these little micro resets, if you will.
Yeah, the integration of it
Absolutely.
all. Can you tell us a story, a success story? I mean, your brother, I feel like, is the ultimate nogi too. Maybe he didn't turn into a yogi, but definitely came around to this work. But is there another story you can tell us of someone who really came around to this?
Yeah, I see them. It's not one story, it's a million stories, whether or not it's in my teaching of my yoga practice or those micro work breaks. My favorite is when the light bulb goes off for somebody, that they realize that constantly taking in is also a signal. Constantly taking in is also a signal to the brain to stay on. And what happens in that, and again, second podcast, we're sending the body into a spiral, which I'm going to just jump to the end. There's lots of things that happen in between, but part of the issue with our health is the large amount of inflammation that we carry, right? So when I get the opportunity to be in front of people where we foundationally break things down, it's almost like a back to basics boot camp. Get your breath in check, understand what fuels the body, what steals from the body, that sleep situation, the movement situation, and being able to put together all those puzzle pieces. I cannot tell you how many times that I hear people will come out and be like, I don't know how I just lost those 10 pounds. I didn't really do too much differently, but think about it. Yes, you did. All those little micro habits you put into place and you took them with you. You didn't kind of carve out this moment. The body was feeling safe enough to let it go. You see what I'm saying? So you no longer had to have that inflammation. You no longer had to have that extra 10 pounds. You no longer had to go without sleep for 3 or, just sleeping 5-6 hours a night instead of 7 and 8. Those stories happen all the time when people understand the intentionality. And the research shows that it's something ridiculous. 75% of our chronic illnesses are directly connected back to the way we live, which means 25% can only be connected, or about 25% is connected to your genetics. Krista, that is like the best news when I hear that means you mostly have control over how you want to feel. So those stories light me up, light me up. And it's never, ever about I use the example of weight loss. It's never that for me. It's when they are finally on their way. Like, I didn't realize it didn't have to be so hard. I didn't have to be sweat. There's nothing wrong with going to the gym. I love it too. But for people who are busy and not necessarily in love with it, there are things that you can do to keep your health in check that don't require burpees and push-ups.
Praise.
Right?
We love it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And it starts with the breath.
Always starts with the breath.
Mm-hmm.
And for our kiddos that are trying to manage this post-COVID mental health, whatever, that struggle bus is very interesting. If I was younger, I would just kind of take the route with the youth, and I would absolutely make sure that breath work, utilizing the breath, using the breath as a technique, a tool, a strategy for high schoolers, for college students, for people who need a tool that doesn't require a medication. I'm not bashing medication. I'm saying, did we look at the foundation piece first? And at 9 times out of 10, when I work with people, they have not.
No.
We jump right on over. For adults, we jump to the glass of wine. For, it's just we're a culture of external fixes. And I think that we have more on the in.
Yeah. I am buying it.
You did.
I
was worried. I was
gosh.
thinking, is there a bell that's like,
You know what?
ding?
We
Like,
should do
it's like,
that.
I bought
That's a great
it. I bought
idea.
it. Like, I was kind of feeling like it was a little bit of a game show. I was like, I got to figure out how
That's
to
a
sell
great
it.
idea. Maybe like a cash gun,
Yeah,
money gun.
Yes, I bought it.
Yes.
I love that idea.
Yes. All right. I bought it.
I
Thank
gifted
you.
it to you.
Yes, you gifted it to me, but I'll leave an Amazon review.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Promise me.
I promise. This was fantastic.
So fun.
Yes, a great episode. And I really love the coffee, the water, the wine.
I will make sure.
That.
I will give you that for the show notes too, because I have a little video of me doing each one of the coffees. So even if they're not going to go down the VidaBall route, use those videos. And then, of course, I'd be really curious to see if anybody comments back. The office breathers are fun.
Okay, yes.
Being able to identify.
Okay, so we have the office breathers, we have the VidaBall discount code.
TEDx Breathe.
TEDx. Yeah. Is your TEDx video live?
Thank you for asking. So the name of the talk is Your Breath Will Be the Heaviest Thing You Ever Hold, and it's supposed to drop any day.
Okay, so by the time this airs.
And I am literally, please listen.
Yes, we will link that. And we'll link like your LinkedIn and ways to connect with you. So lots of things. So check out the show notes for sure.
And when I bring the third iteration, if it's down the street,
come back.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for listening. And Stacy, thank you for being here.
Thank you.